Hello, guys. So today I kind of wanted to make a little video about one of my personal favorite storylines of 2020, the whole Monday Night Messiah gimmick, the Seth Rollins Messiah arc, whatever you want to call it, the savior of SmackDown, or Monday Night Messiah, the savior of everybody. And we're gonna talk about how that storyline dominated 2020 in the show as itself, and we're gonna basically be talking about basically just how it happened, what was going on, and how basically it faded away into non-existence. So today we're gonna be talking about the Monday Night Messiah. Okay, so to begin the story, we gotta go back all the way to Survivor Series 2019, where Team Raw is basically basically loses Survivor Series against Team SmackDown and NXT, or I guess technically loses to SmackDown. The next night on Monday Night Raw, Seth Rollins has everybody around the ring, and he's talking crap about them. He's saying they're all failures, they're all losers, and he basically makes them run away. He basically calls their asses out. Basically, like, they're all total failures, and he even calls Mysterio, total failure for not beating Brock Lesnar, as Seth Rollins obviously beat Brock Lesnar twice in that year. So he calls Mysterio, he couldn't do what the lead pipe and his stupid kid helped him out, which is pretty funny actually, looking back at it now. So basically, for the next couple, Kevin Owens afterwards, once everybody leaves, Kevin Owens is left there, and he's like, boy, what are you talking about? Like, shut your dumb ass up. And he basically accuses Kevin Owens of working for NXT. Why not just join NXT in the process? Which wouldn't be such a bad idea, actually. So this basically begins a little feud with Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins that would basically lead throughout the end of the year. A couple weeks after on Raw, Kevin Owens is attacked, I believe, by the authors of Pain, Akam and Rasar, and he blames Seth Rollins for it. Like, he believes Seth Rollins has something to do with it. He wants answers. Obviously, he's mad, so he's gonna get answers. Rollins says, "No, bullshit. I have nothing to do with the authors of Pain. I didn't send them. I don't even know them. Leave me out of this." So the week after on Raw, Owens again wants to confront the authors of Pain. He gets attacked. He gets attacked by them, and there's right next to him there's a van, and inside the van is a hooded figure that we don't know who it is. Once the hooded figure is actually revealed to be Seth Rollins. So Seth Rollins is actually working with the the AOP, the Authors of Pain, which confirms that Seth Rollins has officially turned heel for the first time since being with the Authority. So after this, the next couple weeks, the week after, I believe Rollins has a match with Rey Mysterio, who's at this point United States champion after beating AJ Styles at Monday Night Raw a couple weeks prior. Has a one-on-one match with him, and we're definitely going to get into Rey Mysterio later on, as he's going to be a very important figure in this whole Monday Night Messiah storyline later on with this family. So at this point, Kevin Owens gets help by some the Authors of Pain actually, and Seth Rollins confront Samoa Joe, who's on commentary on Raw around this time. As I believe, if I remember correctly, he was injured around this point, so he was just doing commentary for the hell of it, and he was really good on commentary actually. And actually, I believe it was the last Raw of the year, or it might have been the Raw before that. I believe it was the last Raw of 2019, where Seth Rollins and the Authors of Pain confront Samoa Joe where the commentary table is, and the Authors of Pain put Samoa Joe through the table. Basically, now Samoa Joe is a part of the feud after this, and the first Raw of 2020 begins basically with how they're gonna have I believe it was a street fight or something like that. Kevin Owens and teams up with Samoa Joe, but they versus the Authors of Pain and Seth Rollins, but they don't have a third person, and so it is revealed at the end of the when the match starts. Seth Rollins and the Authors of Pain are in the ring. They're waiting for Kevin Owens. They wait for Samoa Joe. Kevin Owens gets out there, has his entrance. Samoa Joe has his entrance as well. But who's their partner? It's none other to be. Yes, the Big Show is back, and he teams up with Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe for a pretty fun match. Actually, I think it was a street fight if I remember correctly, and I believe and Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, and the Big Show actually pick up a victory here tonight, and and defeating the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins, and the Authors of Pain, basically. The next week on Raw, on the 13th, they have a rematch again, this time in a fist fight. Which was not really much of a fist fight at all, but still, a fist fight nonetheless, between obviously the same team, Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, and the Big Show versus Seth Rollins and the AOP. This time, however, it was different. It was a really fun match, actually. Kevin Owens has a really cool spot on the Raw stage ramp, which was really awesome. It was kind of awesome. It was really fun. Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens get put through the announce table by the AOP, and Seth Rollins, as he's basically getting attacked by the Big Show, he goes into ringside, where he happens to see a very depressing Buddy Murphy, who just came out of losing a awesome banger match yet again to Aleister Black, losing for the third time at this point. In this video, and he basically tells Buddy Murphy, "Buddy, help us! Buddy, help us!" So basically, he's asking Murphy to help them, to join the Messiah, and to basically help them win this match. It doesn't seem like he's gonna do it, but eventually he low blows the Big Show. Basically, now he is helping Seth Rollins and the AOP, and Rollins picks up the victory for the whole team. And now officially, Buddy Murphy is a part of the Monday Night Messiah. Basically, at this point, kicking off the Monday Night Messiah gimmick itself. The following week on Monday Night Raw, which I was actually at, by the way, really cool, fun experience, by the way, Seth Rollins has a brand new shirt, the Monday Night Messiah itself, which I wish I really got that shirt. I need that shirt. But he's basically introducing how Buddy Murphy, how he saved Buddy Murphy the previous week, and now he's a part of the Monday Night Messiah itself. And he basically, how he said he opened his eyes or something like that into the future or something like that. And Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe come out again talking, like, yeah, what an asshole, you are, Rollins, and Murphy's just a dumbass, or something like that. And then they get help, not this time for the Big Show, but this time from the Viking Raiders, who have an epic match, who later on that night end up defending the Raw Tag Team titles against Murphy and Rollins, which end up Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins pick up the victory and win to become the new Raw Tag Team champions. Some stuff here and there happens in between that point. In the next couple weeks, Rollins is a part of a match for the WWE title. It doesn't go according to plan. For the next few weeks, the Monday Night Messiah basically, gets more like, a Messiah gimmick, They have, I don't know what you call it. I forget what you call it, but they have Rollins made a pretty cool speech on the mid-February episode of Raw, which was pretty fun. I love that leather jacket, by the way, Rollins had. The attire. I love everything about the Monday Night Messiah gimmick, personally, and just my opinion. I know many people don't fond this era of, era WWE, like after the horrible 2017 to 2019 era of Raw and basically SmackDown, if you think about it. But it was still really cool. It was still extremely fun, nonetheless. Later on, basically WrestleMania 36, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins is the main topic at this point. Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy end up losing their tag team titles to the Street Profits at Super Showdown in 2020. Super Showdown. And they end up, if I remember correctly, it's Seth Rollins versus, I can't remember who exactly. I think, do they compete at Elimination Chamber? I don't remember. I think Seth Rollins competes against Kevin Owens at Elimination Chamber, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think Kevin Owens wins that match, or Rollins wins that match. I don't remember exactly. I do gotta look back at it. But besides that, so now at this point, we're heading into WrestleMania 36. No crowd at this point, so the pandemic has officially began. And Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins is the match at WrestleMania 36, which I believe it doesn't main event night one, but it was a really fun match nonetheless. Seth Rollins came out with this awesome godly white attire, which kind of made me think about his SummerSlam 2015 white and gold attire that he had, which was really cool. Anytime Seth Rollins wears white, it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful combination. Regardless, Kevin Owens ends up jumping off the WrestleMania 36 sign like how he said he would do, which was pretty fun. Owens ends up picking up the victory in that match, basically ending the feud right there for him, or so I thought. So later on, the next couple of weeks of that, Drew McIntyre is WWE champion as a new WWE champion, defeating Brock Lesnar, and Seth Rollins kind of wants a bit of action from the new WWE champion, and he wants the WWE title as well. So he basically ends up having a little feud with Drew McIntyre into Money in the Bank 2020, and into Money in the Bank and on Money in the Bank 2020, Seth Rollins ends up having a awesome news, debuting a new awesome song, which was really awesome. I'd definitely play it right now if I could, but I don't know if I'm gonna get copyrighted the crap out of, so it's best not to do that. Point is, Seth Rollins ends up losing that match against Drew McIntyre in a pretty great match. The next night on Raw, Seth Rollins looks like a mess. He has a whole dad bod and everything, and it looks like he just got the worst news of his life. Yeah, because his wife was revealed earlier that night that she was pregnant with the child, and Rollins looks all, what the fuck just happened? So and Murphy's looking at him like, you alright? And one insane factor about this match, this is Rollins and Murphy team up versus Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black, who randomly survived falling off a roof at Money in the Bank the previous day. So it's kind of funny how those two are still alive. But it's not all fun and games, as Rollins is just, the whole match looks pretty depressed. Like, he generally looks like he just wants to not be there. He just wants to leave. He basically, okay, so Rey Mysterio does something stupid where he just punches him out of the ring, which was a big mistake. He should have never done that. This causes Seth Rollins to get pretty frustrated and beats the living crap out of Rey Mysterio outside the ring. And then something that no one ever thought they would ever see, definitely not in the modern era, Seth Rollins drags Rey Mysterio and he shoves his eye in the corner of the steel steps, basically poking the crap out of Rey Mysterio's eye with the solid steel step in the corner, forcing it, basically making Rey Mysterio bleed and make a really nasty, disgusting injury right in front of her eyes. Like, he has gone mental. Like, this is not even funny anymore. Rollins is snapped completely. Rey Mysterio's eye is destroyed. It's bleeding a lot, actually, so they take off his mask and they cover him, obviously. But you could tell he's bleeding from his eye. And Murphy's like, he's like, what the hell are you trying to do? And then, like, he's like, no, stay back. He basically, like, shoves him. Like, no, stay back, right before that sequence, by the way, was really intense. So at this point, going on, the rest of the whole Money Messiah basically turns into a whole feud with Rey Mysterio. Basically, this would eventually lead to a match this would eventually, over the next couple of weeks, we would all think that Rey Mysterio is basically like retiring. Seth Rollins thinks like Mysterio is gonna retire after this, basically, and this cool little fun interview, I think, with Rey Mysterio, basically talking to Tom Phillips or Seth Rollins on, I think it was Tom Phillips, through via satellite, through Rey Mysterio's home, basically talking about he's gonna be there to get some payback on Seth Rollins. But we also see Rey Mysterio's son, Dominic Mysterio, there with them too, and he says, like, we gotta do something to him or something like that. He says, tranquilo, mijo. So basically, there's just like a little tease for Dominic Mysterio possibly making his WWE debut in the future. So eventually this would lead to a match with Rey Mysterio at Extreme Rules. But before we get there, around these next couple weeks, basically Mysterio's allies, friends, Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo team up versus basically the disciple Buddy Murphy and against Austin Theory. Now, Austin Theory actually joined the Money Messiah and became a disciple himself on the May 18th edition of Raw, so the week after, I believe it was, or I believe it was the 18th, where he was teaming up with Angel Garza, Andrade, and Zelina Vega, but they basically kicked him out of the group for being ass for losing, so they basically kicked him out, and he was all kind of depressed, like Murphy was too, So Rollins basically in a match between Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy. Seth Rollins was basically seeing, a beat up Austin Theory, and he basically hugs him and tells him do the right thing or something like that. And Austin Theory attacks Aleister Black, and Murphy attacks him too. Basically, at that point, Austin Theory has joined the Man Messiah, which is something people don't talk about and kind of don't remember that. But that Austin Theory was a part of Man Messiah. It wasn't for that long. It was only for literally like three weeks he was a part of the Messiah, and then he disappeared out of TV. If I remember correctly, the speaking out movement was happening at the time. I think his name was on one of those, was speaked out upon, and it turned out not to be true at all, but he was nonetheless taken off TV, and he would eventually go back to NXT many months later. So eventually we get in this match between Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins, but this time an eye for an eye match. Rey Mysterio said before that, like the week before, that says he's gonna take out he was gonna take out Seth Rollins' eye out with his bare hands, and he saw this funny ass Kevin Owens reaction, which is priceless. And his son Dominic was there too, and he basically didn't give him a high five or a fist bump or something like that. So it was really kind of embarrassing, which would eventually lead to Dominic Mysterio's heel turn 2 years later. No, but it would lead to the eye versus eye match, and that match was pretty alright. It was another cinematic match, and this would result in Rey Mysterio losing his own eye. Literally, the eye popped out itself. Obviously, it wasn't his real eye, but it, because they wouldn't do that. But it felt so real, and Seth Rollins ended up barfing all over the place, as he thought the visual was disgusting. And like Dominic was there as well. He was worried for his dad. So Rey Mysterio ended up wearing a eye patch in the I can't remember which eye. I think it was his right eye, where the eye basically came off as the way to sell the injury. I believe a week after that, Aleister Black himself, who was trying to help, who was on Rey Mysterio's side, wanted to help, but he got attacked by Rollins and Murphy, and Rollins told Murphy to do what he do to Aleister, what he did to Mysterio, and basically injure his eye. So what Murphy, he kind of doesn't want to do it, but he tells him to do it after all the crap that he's been through with Aleister Black and all the embarrassing defeats. So he ends up doing it regardless, and injuring Aleister Black's eye, which will put him out of action for basically take him off of TV for a month, basically. And this is pretty dark. This is like literally dark. Like, Jesus Christ! Now eyeballs are being involved. How much more can the storyline get? And now, as the weeks go on, as Mysterio is finally back on TV, Dominic is there with them every week, and they end up having candlestick fights against Rollins and Murphy as much as they can. And it's pretty fun. So we know now, and it's confirmed, that Dominic Mysterio will be facing Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. Fast forward to SummerSlam 2020, finally. Is the first pay-per-view live from the Thunderdome, which was really fun. It was really cool and visually awesome, and a pretty good match. This was Dominic's debut, first match. It was really pretty good, honestly, but he ends up losing. Rollins ends up defeating him, which, by the way, Seth Rollins' attire, fire. And I love how it's a troll. It's basically like Rey Mysterio's WCW attire from, I believe it was Halloween Havoc 97, the one against Eddie, which was pretty funny. It was pretty awesome and nice little throwback to it. Rollins ends up winning the match. The week after, they have the next night on Raw, Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio team up against Murphy and Rollins to win the Monday Night Messiah, but they end up not really finishing the match as Retribution randomly attacks them. And yeah, we're gonna talk about Retribution in a whole different video itself. That was a disaster. But now keep going. A couple weeks, they end up having another rematch at Payback at 2020. I believe Dominic and Rey end up winning that match, which was pretty fun nonetheless. The week after, Seth Rollins randomly is not there on Raw, and Buddy Murphy and Dominic Mysterio have an awesome street fight live on Monday Night Raw on the September 7th edition, this time with Rey Mysterio, of course, and Aaliyah Mysterio, which is the first time we see Aaliyah since 2010, when CM Punk sang Aaliyah happy birthday to her live on SmackDown, which was pretty funny, and just how much she grown at that point, 19 years old. And of course, Mama Mysterio, Angie. So the whole Mysterio familia was there supporting Dominic in that street fight. A pretty fun street fight. We saw a pretty good match. It was a pretty good match. Basically, it was they had an awesome table spot with Dominic and Murphy, which was really fun. And at the end of the match, Murphy got his ass kicked by the Mysterio family. Basically, candlestick after candlestick after candlestick by everybody. Murphy said, "I quit." I think it was an "I quit" match, actually. So, or something like that. So, yeah. The week after on Raw, Dominic Mysterio ends up fighting Seth Rollins in a steel cage match. Dominic loses, but Murphy accidentally just hits Seth Rollins with the cage door because he assumed it was Dominic, and he was basically distracted by Rey Mysterio. So obviously there was a lot of things going on in Murphy's mind. Rollins ended up winning the match still regardless, but basically beat the living crap out of Murphy. So eventually, the next few weeks, this will basically lead to Rollins being mad at Murphy all the time and how he's a screw up at times, basically. And on the October 5th edition of Monday Night Raw, Rollins tells Murphy to, I believe it was apologize or something like that, or no, actually no, it was to not do this crap again. But Murphy wants Rollins to say wants Seth Rollins to apologize to Aaliyah Mysterio for exposing their little conversation the previous Monday on Raw. So basically, Rollins is like, what? Why would I apologize for? But basically, Murphy basically has enough of his bullshit and basically finally a brawl happens between Rollins and Murphy that basically end their pairing itself. He says, apologize, and hits Rollins with the candlestick. It was pretty funny. He's like, and stuff like that. And then he gets beat up by the candlestick. Murphy gets beat up by the candlestick. Aaliyah comes into his side. And by the way, we're going to make a whole video very soon on Buddy Murphy and Aaliyah Mysterio and that whole storyline itself. It wasn't really that long, but that's a future topic. So regardless, Murphy and Rollins kind of get back together a little bit around early November. At this point, everybody, all of them are drafted to SmackDown. So the Mysterios are drafted to SmackDown, Rollins is drafted to SmackDown, Murphy's drafted to SmackDown. So the whole storyline goes to SmackDown, which I love, by the way. I was really happy. So at this point, Seth Rollins has a match versus Otis to qualify for Survivor Series for Team SmackDown, and Murphy ends up distracting Otis and it cost Otis the match, giving Rollins the victory, joining Team SmackDown Survivor Series. And basically, this makes the Mysterios mad because Aaliyah confused of why he did this. And then later, the week after, Rollins has a match with Rey Mysterio, and a pretty fun match. But then Murphy gets involved, and he knees the crap out of Seth Rollins, basically betraying the Savior himself, our Messiah. He betrays him, giving the victory to Rey Mysterio with a frog splash. 1, 2, 3, it's over. Rey Mysterio is finally freed from this whole storyline. The Mysterio storyline with Monday Messiah is officially over, and the pairing, the disciple, is done. Now, the week after, they have a match, Murphy versus Seth Rollins on SmackDown, and Murphy comes out with Aaliyah and the other Mysterios, and Rollins is like, what the fuck? Rollins is like, what the fuck? And he gets an amazing match. Murphy gets the biggest win of his career, beating Seth Rollins 1, 2, 3. Really fun match, ending this whole Messiah storyline, officially coming to an end, as this will be the final appearance of Seth Rollins on SmackDown until February, as he would go on maternity leave. So at this point, at the Royal Rumble in February 2021, he returns at the Rumble with the Monday Messiah theme song, but a little bit different attire, as it's more of a reddish attire at this point. I believe it was at the Rumble he debuted it, or it might have been a little bit afterwards. But eventually, when Rollins came back on SmackDown like the week after, it wasn't the Monday Messiah. It definitely had the elements of the Monday Messiah, but it was basically the visionary Rollins as we have nowadays, basically. And there would be a little brief cameo with Buddy Murphy, actually, in a mid-March episode of SmackDown, where he's like, it's kind of like he wants to go back with Seth, and that's a whole other topic itself for one day as well. But the point is, Rollins is like, get out of my face, and basically disrespects Murphy. Poor Murphy walks out sad. I believe Murphy has a match with Cesaro and loses, etc., etc. Basically building up to the WrestleMania match between Seth Rollins and Cesaro. At this point, that's about it. That's literally, after that, it was just the visionary Seth Rollins, and the whole Monday Night Messiah storyline basically ended itself. The Authors of Pain disappeared when the pandemic started, so I kind of forgot to talk about that earlier. But regardless, at this point, the Monday Night Messiah storyline basically ended in November 2020. So personally, not going back, looking back at it now, I enjoy the storyline. It went on for too long though with the Mysterio storyline though, definitely. But for me, it was entertaining nonetheless. So what do you guys think? What's your opinion on the whole Monday Night Messiah gimmick? I know I didn't really state a lot of details in this. I was looking as quick as we can, but still, this is a really pretty cool storyline. I enjoyed it myself. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My voice is not the best. I'm sorry. I'm losing my voice right now, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.